I think that Kim Davis is just as bad and just as hyperbolic and ridiculous as the people on the far left. I just want to put that out there. The far right and the far left are the same thing to me at the end of the day. They act the same, they think the same, they don't know when to stop. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be jumping right into this. We're going to be talking about same-sex marriage. Yes, we're talking about that again because everybody else is talking about it. Everybody else keeps bringing it up. You know, let's just leave things alone and let sleeping dogs lie. But we can't do this because Kim Davis, yes, Kim Davis is back in the news after 10 years, and she wants to bring this up, and she wants to bring it to the Supreme Court. So we'll be talking about that today, what my thoughts and feelings are on that, and how I think the far left and the far right is reacting and who is to blame. But before we get into this, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for all of the support. I have seen a lot floating around the internet since the breaking news about same-sex marriage and the potential for the Supreme Court to examine Obergefell versus Hodges again. And I've been in the comment sections, and I've seen some posts on both sides of the aisle that I am very disturbed by and not happy about, because I feel like, as far as LGBT is concerned, this is the last problem that we have. And as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, it's really the dumbest thing that they could do, because I think there is going to be a downward spiral of a lot of lawsuits, a lot of legal battles to come out of this if they actually did overturn it. So let's take a look at the official ABC News briefing on this.
10 years after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriage across the United States, it could now be overturned. Senior Washington correspondent Devin Dwyer is on the story for us. All right, give us the deal, Devin. Who is actually asking the justices to overturn this?
Well, in recent years, Kira, we've been waiting for a case like this, as some of the sentiment in the country has started to shift a little bit, softened rather, against same-sex marriage. There's been a lot of talk about whether the justices would get a chance to reconsider the case. And as you said there, they are getting that opportunity next month. We've learned that Kim Davis, she's that Kentucky clerk from back in 2015 that was at the center of international controversy when she refused to issue marriage licenses to a gay couple in Kentucky in defense.
I think that Kim Davis is just as bad and just as hyperbolic and ridiculous as the people on the far left. I just want to put that out there. And, you know, I also want to put the question out there, why are people softening on the idea of keeping same-sex marriage intact? Why all of a sudden is that a problem? Is it really because of Trump, or is it because of the far left and all the destruction that they've done over the last 10 years with gender ideology and all that stuff?
Defiance of the Supreme Court. She spent 6 days in jail. She lost a defamation suit. She had to pay $100,000 in damages.
And the fact that she spent 6 days in jail is super weird to me. Like, okay, you refuse to issue marriage licenses, fine and dandy, don't do that, get fired from your job, whatever, I don't care. Have somebody else issue the marriage licenses if you don't want to do it, or if it's against your religious beliefs, fine with me. Putting her in jail for 6 days, like, that's kind of weird. But again, I'm just going to reiterate this, that if you don't want to issue a marriage license to a same-sex couple, don't. If you don't want to have a same-sex marriage, don't get one. If your religion is against same-sex marriage, that's fine.
$260,000 in legal fees. That's what she's appealing to the Supreme Court. But it's the first time, Kira, that anyone has technically asked the justices explicitly to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, which was that landmark ruling. And she does just that. Her counsel in this petition, which was filed last week, says that decision was egregiously wrong. And if that sounds familiar, that's the same type of argument that was made by opponents of abortion when they sought to overturn Roe versus Wade.
I don't like the fact that they compare Roe v. Wade to the same-sex marriage bit, because they're two entirely different cases and they were decided under very different amendments. So they're just not the same at all, but they kind of fuse this stuff together, and I really think it's to get people like wound up about it. She can have her opinion. That sounds like an opinion that she thinks it's egregiously wrong or whatever, but I think she just thinks that because this had an impact on her, because she made some stupid moves back when this was first passed all those years ago now.
Just a few years ago. So a lot of eyes on this petition. It's unclear whether the court will take it up, but certainly a lot on the line.
Well, is there any indication that justices will consider hearing arguments?
A lot of the legal experts I've talked to say there's no chance the Supreme Court will want to wade into this. But, you know, the climate that we're in right now, anything can happen. Certainly, we are in the midst of a campaign against same-sex marriages across the country. At least 9 states so far have either passed legislation seeking to end those rights or specifically asked the Supreme Court, send resolutions to the Supreme Court asking them to revisit. You saw the Southern Baptist Convention, the nation's largest Protestant Christian group, just last month. They voted to make overturning Obergefell a top priority. So there's a renewed effort by activists in this space to try to get the attention of the Supreme Court. And a lot of them, Kira, are pointing to comments by Justice Clarence Thomas, the senior conservative, who after the Dobbs decision, the one that overturned abortion rights in this country, he said in his opinion that he thinks it's time to take a look again at marriage rights. So anything can happen. It's on the table, but most legal experts think that the chances are less likely than not, Kira.
Okay, so my first thoughts are it's probably not going to be a problem, but like that guy said, like in this climate, anything goes and anything can happen. And, you know, I kind of lean into that a little bit because things are wild right now. And of course, everybody on social media is jumping all over this, either trying to diffuse it or they're putting more fuel on the fire. And last night I was in several conversations with a few colleagues of mine and some friends. And like, at the end of the day, like, it really ticks me off that this is the thing that they have to go after when these are the people that bother others the least, the peaceful gays. So last night I was scrolling Instagram and I came across this post that really ticked me off. And I actually ended up responding to it, and it's over on my Instagram if you want to check it out. And that reminds me, if you have not followed my Instagram, go ahead and do that at Voices with Vicky. The post is over there, and I'll show it here on screen. It says, "There is no such thing as a gay marriage." And this person writes, "SCOTUS to consider case to overturn the 2014 same-sex marriage ruling. Even liberal California voted against gay marriage. Marriage can only be between one man and one woman. It is a sacrament instituted by God. Anything else is a deep fake counterfeit." Okay, well, first of all, this woman doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Now, the thing in California is called Prop 8. And back then, we lived in a very different world as far as the climate politically and the fight for same-sex marriage. And there were a lot of states that were making laws and putting laws in place like that and having people vote on them and whatnot. And the one in California in particular, I remember was very confusing to a lot of residents in California. I think a lot of people in California thought they were voting a certain way on it, and it turned out that they were voting the opposite of trying to make same-sex marriage the law of the land in the state of California. And Prop 8 was later overturned anyways, and fast forward to now, things are very different. And I know that they mentioned in the ABC news clip that I just rolled for you guys that there are 9 states so far that want to overturn it. And you know what? That does not surprise me, but I don't really see the purpose other than the fact that they think we're living in a theocracy. And the other thing she says here about marriage can only be between one man and one woman, and that is her opinion. Back when the fight for marriage equality was like a huge thing with gay rights, I remember there was a big fight about the word marriage. And the word marriage shouldn't be used, and they should use a different term like civil union or something along those lines. Because I think part of what triggers a lot of right-wing conservatives are the words gay and marriage next to each other, because they look at the word marriage and they apply it religiously. Now, if I could go back in time, I think what I would have done is said, let's make it a civil union. And then I believe what I would do is basically would be the same thing. You know, you'd go into your county court clerk's office or whatever to get your marriage license, and they would hand you the same paperwork that they'd hand a straight couple. But for the purposes of being political, we would have not called it marriage. We wouldn't have said same-sex marriage. We wouldn't have used gay marriage. We would have used civil unions. We would have shaped it a little differently as far as the wording. That's what I would have done, and I don't know that we'd be having the same conversation right now. I don't remember ever asking the church to change anything. If churches don't want to marry a same-sex couple, they don't have to do it. And as far as I know, many of them still don't. There's a few that do, but a lot of them don't. So I just don't really see what the issue is. I almost feel like some of these super right-wing social media influencers are just trying to say what's popular and what's at the top right now. And if you look in her comment section, there's a lot of people actually out there that are kind of like, yeah, overturn it. And it was surprising, but it wasn't, because it vaguely reminds me of the original fight for this to begin with. I mean, we're talking about a legal document at the end of the day. That's what we're talking about. A legal document between two men or two women. That's it. That's all we're talking about. And I also hear a lot that it's a slippery slope, Vicky. It was the slippery slope, and it's why we have trans women in women's sports now. No, it's not. My marriage is not the reason for trans children and sporting issues and gender ideology. You know what is? Queer theory. So these people on the far right, they're not well versed in this subject. They just want to stand on their religious principles and use that as an excuse and a reason to have this overturned. You can just not get a same-sex marriage, or don't talk to people that are in same-sex marriages. Don't associate with them. This other stuff with gender ideology and trans kids and all that, that's affecting a lot of people on a scale, because you were forcing people to change their beliefs. You were forcing people to actually speak differently. It was affecting children. It's affecting women. What did same-sex marriage really impact on some social level nationally? Not a heck of a lot. Taxes? I mean, what else? Property ownership? Things that are still none of your business if you're not involved in that union? What I also want to get to is the far left. Here's the thing about the far left is the Q plus pee-pee poo-poo community and all of that. They don't ever talk about same-sex marriage. They never talk about marriage equality. That's not on their agenda, and it never was on their agenda. You know what they care about? Pronouns, what gender they're going to be tomorrow, what identity they're going to make up, which one they're going to push on people next, which oppression points they're going to try to rack up. That's what they care about. Most of these people are in polyamorous relationships. They're not thinking about marriage. They're not thinking about monogamy. They're not part of the peaceful gay movement. And so to them, I say, you, because you are part of the problem, and you're part of what pushed this to where it got with your queer theory drama and bullshit. And the thing is that at the end of the day, I really blame the far left. I really do. They antagonized this further. We told you to stop. Actually, Gays Against Groomer just released a statement about this. I'll read it to you. So the statement says, the Supreme Court is set to hear a case this fall that could potentially overturn the legalization of same-sex marriage. We tried to warn everyone, even people in our own LGBT community, but the cult didn't care. They kept going after innocent children anyways. They kept fighting to set back women's rights. They are the real cause of the serious degrading of LGBT acceptance in America. When we got equal rights, we were happy. Yes, we were. We just wanted to be left alone. Yes, we did. To live in peace equally to everyone else. But then the alphabet mafia took over and tried making it all about them, forcing and demanding and even suing for attention from everyone, forcing acceptance of mental illnesses, and started the downgrading of LGBT acceptance everywhere. You went after the children. You went after women's rights. The nation was overwhelmingly fine for the first time with the LGBT until the alphabet mafia went way too far. And that just about sums it up with what's going on the far left. And a lot of people in my comment section over time, when I'm out there talking about gender ideology and the harm that it's caused, get in my comments and they say, you just want to be a pick-me. No, I have never wanted to be a part of the far right or be accepted by any of that either. I went through it on the front lines with same-sex marriage. And you think that I want to subject myself to that abuse on that end of things? We are the people that are looking for middle ground. We are the people that want to come together in society and live in peace and tranquility. That is what we are about. That is what I am about. And I am about leaving children alone and keeping women safe. So the next time somebody wants to say that, you can just take that and kiss it, because that's got nothing to do with this. That's not what the fight is about, and you know it. Far left of the LGBT community can never take any accountability for anything. They can never, ever, ever do it, and they never will. The far right and the far left are the same thing to me at the end of the day. They act the same, they think the same, they don't know when to stop. So let's react to a couple of Instagram reels about this conversation and talk about it.
As a gay Republican, there are a couple of reasons why I'm not worried that gay marriage will get overturned. First of all, when I saw a popular right-wing page posting about this, all of the top comments did not want the Supreme Court to overturn gay marriage.
Okay, maybe in that comment section, that's true, but I have seen comment sections that are just blowing up with how much they want to see it overturned. So I don't know. I think there might be people waiting in the wings on the right side about this that just have been waiting for this moment. I don't know. I think that it's more popular than you might think. I don't think it's Trump's fault, but I think that there's a lot of people on the right side that exist that want nothing to do with same-sex marriage and would love to see it fall.
Because contrary to all the propaganda, right-wingers are actually not foaming at the mouth to prevent two consenting adults from getting married. So public opinion on the right is by no means rooting for gay marriage to be overturned. But even if it were, that wouldn't matter, because the Supreme Court is not a court of opinion. The Supreme Court is a court of law. And that is the main reason why I'm not worried that gay marriage will be overturned, because the 14th Amendment of the Constitution promises all citizens equal protection of the laws. If straight couples are legally allowed to get married, but gay couples are not, that is a violation of our constitutional rights. Now, I don't have a problem with people disagreeing with gay marriage, but we live in a constitutional republic that upholds the Constitution. We do not live in a theocracy. There is a reason why the Constitution limits the influence of religion in government. And if you need an example of why theocracy is a bad idea, then look no further than the extremist theocracies of the Middle East.
I really think that there's a lot of people running their mouths that don't know what they're talking about. And I think Evan lays it out pretty good here, but I don't know if he realizes that there are some really insidious, nasty people on the right side. I don't know how many of them there really are. Like, let me just make that clear. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm not trying to fearmonger, but those people do exist and have existed on the right side for a long time.
Oh my God, the Supreme Court is taking a case to overturn gay marriage. All right, let's breathe, okay? Because not quite. Kim Davis out of Kentucky filed a petition with the Supreme Court, but they actually have not yet accepted it. Okay, well, that's good, but it's still disgusting. I agree with you. It's a terrible move, and her petition essentially has two parts. Let's break it down. The main part of her petition centers around religious liberties, saying that as a government employee, she should not be forced to issue a marriage license that violates her religious beliefs. Okay, so she's essentially asking the court to rule that government employees can opt out of certain duties if they violate their religious beliefs. That's correct, but it's a Trojan horse, because in part 2 of the petition, she's asking.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. Like I said at the beginning, like, if you're religiously objecting to this on some great level and you don't want to do it, you don't want to issue a marriage license for it, then okay, I think you should be able to opt out of that. And I would even go as far as to say I wouldn't want you to be the one to hand me the marriage license if it was against your beliefs. Have somebody else do it. I don't know. I feel like these things, they make them so complicated, and it's not.
The court to revisit and overturn gay marriage. Okay, but why wouldn't she just make that the main part of the petition? It's strategic. It is a strategic Trojan horse. They are framing it as a religious liberties case, which the courts are more likely to hear, but embedded in it, truly at the heart of it, is an appeal to overturn gay marriage. Does anybody actually want this? Excluding the extremist minority? No. The vast majority of conservatives are totally cool with gay marriage, but if Republicans really want to lose the midterms, this is a great way to do so.
I really hope Becky is right on that last part, but I also agree with her too, that if you want to lose the midterms, Republicans, this is a really great start. I mean, keep hammering away at same-sex marriage 10 years freaking later. I was having a conversation with somebody too about what would happen if they actually were successful, because different states have different laws. People are like, oh, it goes back to the states. And it's like, we're not talking about abortion, whether or not you can have one or how many weeks or whatever. It's like, it's legal or it's not. So what does that mean? Because some people have moved to different states since they got married. They might have a marriage license, say, in Montana, but then they moved to, say, New York, or they have a marriage license in California, and then they moved to Arizona, or something like that. So you'd be married in some states, but you wouldn't be married in others necessarily. And how does that work with your taxes? How does that work with property ownership? I think it really muddies the waters. And there's a lot of people out there that are same-sex couples that have children. And how does that impact things with their kids? So guys, let me know in the comment section, what do you think? I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm tired of this. Like, can we just not go there with same-sex marriage? Can we just like make it so that trans kids isn't a thing? Make it so trans women are in women's sports, and like, let's move on. Like, that's it. That's all we really need. Like, that's all that really needs to happen. I actually can't believe that Kim Davis, I'm sorry, but she's such a fucking Karen. I can't believe she is like bringing this up again. I mean, the way the right propped her up as some type of hero at the time too was like really obnoxious. And now they brought the same person back to the conversation to try to overturn same-sex marriage. I mean, is she obsessed or what? Because I feel like it's a little much. Like, she's Karen level 99. So guys, let me know in the comment section what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.